Hey, that was fast. Hey, BTW. Hey, BTW. Oh, yeah, I'm just getting settled in here. Hold on one sec. I'm still. I'm very disorganized tonight. Oh boy. Let's see. What do we got? Programming, game development. Gotta do these tags every time. What is this one called? What's the theme of this to do this stream? I want to talk about a bunch of stuff, but yeah, maybe we'll start with the profiler. Godot Showcase, Name, and Astronaut. That's what we're going to cover today. Hey, Slacks. 1:15 a.m. Let's see, it's 17 here. 6, 7. You're 8 hours ahead. I'm doing well. How are you doing? Sleepy. Are you usually a night owl? You don't have to get up early in the morning? This coffee cures it. This will be my third one of these full of coffee today. Hey, pita bread. In case you guys didn't know, pita bread is the level designer for the first 24 levels in Gravity Ace. Put in a tremendous amount of work and made just a bunch of levels that are fantastic and fun to play. And yeah, he's the guy. Oh, all right. Now I'm comfy. All right. This is my to-do list for the stream tonight. And I'm not going to do these in order. But let's talk about this one first. So go subscribe to my YouTube channel. I'm recording a new devlog tonight. I spent some time writing it yesterday. And I mean, so Twitch and YouTube are completely different mediums, right? Twitch is great. I love Twitch. I was skeptical at first, but it turns out I actually like doing this. And I like talking with people. I like interacting with people. I like doing the whole, live coding thing. It's cool. It feels like you're together when you're not, I mean, we are together in a sense. We're just not physically together. But it's cool. And but the problem with it is, if I have a little tidbit or some information in there, embedded somewhere in a 4-hour stream, it's impossible for people to find it, and a lot of people are like, just give me the 10-minute thing. And that's where YouTube comes in, right? YouTube is perfect for that kind of thing. And I've been posting my full streams over on YouTube just to have a, permanent record of them. Twitch deletes them after a couple weeks. So 10 minute short format videos, little tutorials. I'm going to start doing those again. I was doing them pretty regularly. I started doing them December 2019, actually. And I was doing them pretty regularly until, March, when the world blew up and it just stopped, It was kind of a coincidence because I was picking up streaming, or maybe it wasn't a coincidence. Maybe I picked up streaming because I didn't have the motivation to do the 10-minute videos anymore. Anyway, it was a stressful few months. You guys have no idea what my March, April, and May were like. Have nothing to do with COVID at all. It was just a stressful time. But that on top of it, it was a mess. But so it's cool that I'm getting back into it in December, which is like the anniversary of when I started. So go follow me on YouTube. I'm going to start posting these videos again every week. Fingers crossed. I'm going to start posting them every week. I'm going to record one tonight and should go live tomorrow. Go check it out. And then another thing, channel point rewards. You guys probably noticed down there at the bottom of the chat, there's like right under over there. I don't know where the chat is for you guys. It's somewhere on the screen at the bottom. There's like a box and you're getting points, and there's some stuff in there you can get. And I added some new ones. One is naming an asteroid. So in the game right now, we did this last stream. You can go into, let's see, what did we do? We added, when you create a landmass in the game, it now names it. And I put in all the names for a ton of features, geographic features on Mars and on the moon. And I'll probably add more, but there's, I don't know, a couple hundred in here. What do we got? 233 to, so there's like 500 of them. It's kind of fun. Like, you never see them in the game, but you see them in the editor like this. So what I thought would be fun is if we let the chat, you guys, name them. So if you want to, you can spend your channel points and give me a name. Keep it clean. But yeah, you can have a name in the game. And on top of that, I thought it would be fun to name the astronauts. So one thing I'm going to do today on stream is I'm going to add a field on here for the astronaut name. And we're going to find a bunch of science names, famous scientists and famous people, and we'll put their names in here. I still need to do some research on what the legal ramifications of all that is, but I think we'll kind of default to very, very long dead people or fictional people. And I think we should be okay. But you can also spend your channel points on naming an astronaut. And the way that'll show up in the game is, well, I still need to design it, but that's what we'll do today, is we'll figure out where we're going to show the name in the dialogues that pop up. Yeah, exactly, right? Dr. Strangelove. We'll except maybe not Dr. Strangelove because copyright. I don't know. But it'll show up in the dialogue, and yeah. So this way, you guys can have some. You guys can put some content into the game. And I thought that would be fun and cool. So we're gonna work on that today. But oh, yeah. Let's just do this. Let's just jump into this. So in my Discord, I can't remember who. Maybe it was Judd. Somebody asked me, you know, they noticed that last time I was talking about all those names that I'd put into the game, and I thought, boy, I wonder how much memory this is taking. And I did a quick back of the envelope calculation. It was something like 9K of memory, 9 kilobytes is nothing, right? But it did worry me for a second. I was like, how many times is it creating this memory allocation? And I was like, well, it's just the one script, and I think it probably loads the script once. And so the memory is allocated once, and it's just shared amongst all the different walls. Even if there were 100 walls in the game, we're talking 900K. It's not even a megabyte. So it's not a big deal. But I think it's literally only going to be about 10K or 9K, something like that. So not a big deal. But it did bring up the question of, you know, have I looked at the memory usage in the game, CPU usage, stuff like that? And my answer was no, I haven't. I did for a while in the beginning. I was looking at this stuff in the beginning. Let me try this. Hey, look at that. I was trying this stuff in the beginning, or looking at the profiler a lot in the beginning, and just kind of obsessing over it a little bit, probably too much. And I was like, you know, worried about CPU usage and memory usage and blah, 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 blah. And then I realized, you know what, you're getting 700 frames per second. It doesn't matter. It's a desktop game. You're barely using, you know, a gigabyte of memory or whatever. Every computer on the planet has 2 or 4 gigabytes of memory. Every desktop and laptop in the world has enough CPU to run the game. Integrated graphics chips are fine for playing this. You know, 700 frames per second, you've got so much headroom, it doesn't even matter. So I stopped looking at it. But I thought it'd be fun to check it out and see where we're at. And maybe, you know, if you guys didn't know about the profiler, maybe it would be a good way to introduce some of you to how the profiler works and what it can do. So let me just, let's see, how will we do this? The profiler's on the debugger tab. You have all these cool monitors showing, you know, all this cool stuff. Look at this. The title screen's running at 1,000 frames per second. There are 1,600 objects allocated right now. 174 different nodes. It's cool. Video memory, 39 megabytes of video memory. Nothing, right? It's almost like the computer's idle. And then there's a profiler, which gives you this kind of stuff. This is like, it's actually pretty cool. It gives you, this red line is the 60 frames per second ceiling. This is where the physics time step happens. So this from 0 down here up to here represents 16.67 milliseconds, right? How to see how much memory the OS is allowing Godot to use? I don't know. That's a good question. Is there a limit? It'll probably depend on the operating system, but my feeling is that the operating system will allow an app to use however much memory it wants until you run out. And that's how you get into situations where you run out of memory and your computer crashes. Like on Linux here, what happens if an app starts requesting too much memory, then it starts going into swap space. I think Windows does the same thing, where it takes some of the memory and puts it on your disk, and then it tries to keep going. And because it's copying a bunch of memory to disk, your computer slows down, and it makes the problem worse, and then eventually you have to hit the power button and turn it off. So I don't know that most operating systems by default will limit how much memory a game gets, but I'm not an expert on that. I know that there are limits of video RAM, though. And most consumer video cards will come with something like 4 gigs of RAM. The higher end cards have 6 or 8 gigs of RAM. So for any given scene, all of your textures have to fit into that RAM. Otherwise, your frame rate will suffer. 4 gigs is a lot. You know, that's why they have this monitor down here for video RAM. And yeah, I'm using 39 megabytes, not even gigabytes, just doing nothing. Draw calls 270, that's basically nothing. A good desktop, like a low-end desktop running a 1060 like my computer here can easily do, I don't know, 5,000 to 10,000 draw calls per frame without any problem. And I'm doing 272. So this is why I stopped looking at the profiler. There's just no reason to be concerned about these tiny, tiny numbers. But your game's going to be different, you know. Every game's going to be different. My guiding rule of thumb is if the frame rate's high, then it's not worth looking at. But once the frame rate gets lower, if you're in the 120 territory, you know, 80, 90, 120, you start getting down there to closer to 60, then maybe it's worth looking at some of this other stuff and starting to figure out what the bottlenecks are and where you can optimize things to try and get the frame rate to go a little higher. Yeah, but I mean, look at this. It's 1,000 frames per second. Let's play the game and see what it shows. Let's just play through a level. Let me turn off this so we can see the monitor at the same time. And you can go through here and you can check some of these. You can check this. Let's see. Let's check this. No, let's check this one. Let's do this. Oh, that's interesting. Vertices drawn. Even though it's a 2D game, it is using OpenGL to draw everything, so everything ends up being a quad. There are some shaders, right? There's shaders for everything because it's OpenGL. Draw calls. What's the difference between... I don't know what the difference is between the raster draw calls and 2D draw calls. But see, then you've got all these cool things on here that you can just kind of watch as you play the game. This level won't be very taxing. So the frames per second went down, right? We're down at 500, 600. Let's do something interesting, like blow something up and see what happens. Oh, I can't. There's no gun on this level. All right, let's get out of here. Let's go to a level with some explosions. To see the number of nodes from the title screen went way up when I was playing the level, and then it went down when I switched the scene right here, and then it went up again briefly while it was showing all those animations for the game over scene. And then I'll switch scenes so you can see the edge there where it changed. Let's do this level. See you, Slacks. Let's blow stuff up. Let's see what happens. Oh yeah, we got lots of stuff happening. Boom. Boom, boom. All right, let's pause it. Take a look. And you can pause the profiler too at any time. Oh, actually, I wasn't running the profiler. These are just monitors, so it's just like a system monitor, and just runs all the time. But you see, I get up to 1,800 nodes. Draw calls goes up. I mean, it's at 453 right now. It was around, I don't know, 500 or 600, just like nothing. Frames per second during the pause screen is actually kind of low compared to the rest of the game, 500, but it's still so much headroom, it doesn't matter. If we run the profiler, you can see it's doing this, and this is each one of these steps is a frame, right? It's frame number right here, right? So these are just frames ticking by. How do we restart this thing? Stop, clear. Did the game stop? Oh, I think I crashed it. Let's start it again. Profiler. Oh, there we go. So the profiler is neat, and this can help you track down bottlenecks. As you're playing the game, you can see little spikes where things happen. Right? As I mouse over this stuff, there's stuff happening in the game, right? Here's loading a level right there. You see that big spike. And I don't mind those big spikes in places where the game's like loading something, especially if it only takes like a couple of seconds or half a second in this case. There's an explosion you can see. Tractor beam. Just blow myself up. All right. Oops. So then you can stop this, and you can like go to one of these frames, right, and just check out what was going on in there. And you can see all the different script functions that were being called. stuff happening in the audio thread. This red line is the physics frame. And as I step through here, you'll see different functions. So here's a timer timing out. Here's a notification happening. Physics process happening. Right? These are all my functions that I wrote. Right? This one got called 6 times if I'm in edit mode. But you can see the script functions is this yellow line. It doesn't even show up on the graph because it's taking basically no time at all. Timer, timeout again. So you can kind of look at your spikes and see, is it my scripts that are causing the problem? Do I have something standing out? And you can sort this, I think. Yeah, you can measure, well, you can measure different metrics. And you can have the time be inclusive of all the children or just itself. I thought you could sort these, but I guess you can't. So, you know, if you see a big spike in here, you can kind of look through it frame by frame and see what the bottlenecks are and why something was spiking. And if it even is a problem with your scripting or whatever, you'll just see how many milliseconds it was taking. And you know, again, as long as everything's under this red line, as long as everything's under that red line, you know you don't have a problem because it's under 60. This is the frame time, right? For me, 60 milliseconds, 60 frames per second. Yeah. Anyway, so the profiler is a neat tool. No, everything's in GD script in this whole game. Dizzy Dentu, welcome. Yeah, everything in the game is a GD script. I didn't write anything in C at all. I think the reason that the profiler's not showing very many things being called is because probably I just got unlucky. I don't know how to scroll this thing. But, you know, sometimes you'll see like a ton of stuff getting called and sometimes you won't. Just depends on what's happening in the game. I don't even know what those are. That might be some of the Nakama stuff that I put in. Oh, I think the profiler could be better. Yeah, the profiler could be better. It could use some better tools for zooming and scrubbing through here, finding things. I'd like to be able to put like a breakpoint on. Oh, actually, I wonder. Well, I'd like to be able to put like a breakpoint on something and see like a function call and have it come here and show me when it's being called, or I don't know, some kind of output besides this that would show me an average maybe over a certain amount of time instead of just per frame would be useful. Like if I could highlight this whole area and have it tell me how many times each function was called instead of going frame by frame and trying to find it. Yeah, that would be cool. But it still can be useful. This helped me a lot when I was debugging the level loading stuff. Especially this scene right here. The sector map. When I was debugging this helped me quite a bit. Actually, let me try reloading that and catch it. So we'll do that. We'll go to the sector map. And then we'll stop. All right, so we've got this big spike, right? And this dwarfed the time step, right? This is huge. So a lot of stuff happened here, and that's why the game kind of locks up for just a second when you go to this screen. See that? It just takes a second to get there, and it's because it's doing all this stuff. Like it makes this call 896 times, right? It only takes 0.27 milliseconds, but that's 2 frames almost. No, that's not 2 frames. 0.27 milliseconds is very small. This one, for example, takes 25 milliseconds. That's almost 2 frames. So there were some functions in here that were taking thousands of milliseconds. It was taking 5-6 seconds to load this screen. And I looked through here and it told me exactly. I could just see. Here's one that's taking 5,000 milliseconds. Let's optimize that one. And I got it down to a point where I was happy with it, right? Like this ran 896 times in 0.27 milliseconds. That's fine. This ran almost 1,000 times in 1 millisecond. Perfect, right? It's just doing a lot of stuff. And I could probably even optimize this a little better in terms of how many times it's called. But if it's only taking 1 millisecond, it's fine. And the way I was able to optimize this was basically caching some data, so it didn't have to keep loading stuff over and over again. Some of these functions were trying to just load the same data over and over and over again from disk, like 1,000 times. And now it loads it once and then caches it for all the other calls. So you can look for these spikes, get to the right frame, right, and see all your function calls, and then you can look for the bad ones that are either getting called too much or taking too much time. And then you know, just by looking at that, you know, here's the problem. And then you can go to that function and try and figure out why is it so slow and optimize it. But not until you have a problem with your frames per second. If your frames per second and everything's running at a nice clip, then you're going to optimize it, but nobody's going to notice. So I tend to not waste my time. Yeah, exactly, right? A spike on a loading screen is fine because they clicked, the screen goes black, half a second later it comes back. It's fine. It's not like it's in the middle of the game or something, right? So I'm fine with it. All right, let's close that. So, all right, so that's the profiler. I hope that was useful. Let's do this name an astronaut thing. Let's just do some coding. I want to do some coding. Oh, I call them people. Persons. So every person is going to need a name. Hey, Valiant Cheese. Hey, you guys, you should definitely check out Valiant Cheese's stream as well. Valiant Cheese is from the other side of the earth from me. And he's making a cool game, or made a cool game, rather, called Hive Time. And
bees, aren't they wonderful? This is Penelope. Penelope.
Oh, you guys can't hear the audio. There's something wrong with my desktop audio.
The only problem is,
oh, I know what it is.
Bees don't live very long. So sad.
You can hear it through my microphone.
She has friends. Each bee may only be around for a short while, but together, their tiny little lives all help build a lasting hive. At the core of the hive is Queen Alice the...
For sale on Itch. I have a copy. It's fun. Yeah, I should definitely check it out. And Mr. Cheeseness streams on Twitch as well. And Hive Time right here. One of the cool things that Mr. Cheese is working on is integrating Twitch chat into the game. So if you can imagine this screenshot, right, with all these bees on it, if you're playing it and you're streaming this game, your chatters turn into bees. They become one of the bees, and their chat messages become little talking bubbles above the bees' heads. It's really cool. It's really, really cool, actually. And I'm eventually going to build that same sort of functionality into Gravity Ace. My plan is for a streamer to be able to be playing Gravity Ace, right? And they're talking to their chat, and occasionally one of the chat messages will get promoted into a dialog box that comes up on the screen in the game. And I was thinking too of letting players vote or do something that would let them affect the player in some way, like turn off their gun for 10 seconds or turn off their shields for 10 seconds, right? Make the screen go black for a couple of seconds, to mess with them. I thought that would be fun. So I'm going to be experimenting with that sort of stuff. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I always need more people to follow. I always need more people to follow. It's cool to just kind of hang out with everybody, while you're working. It's nice. All right, so in the game, let's see. I want to be able to go to the editor. Let me open my test level here. And I want to be able to put down an astronaut. Right, like this. And I want to be able to see a name here. So to do that, I just need to, I've already got this framework already in place where I can just say export string their name equals blank, like that. And this probably won't work. I probably will have to load oh no, look, it worked. Let me put this full screen. So you see the name, right? The name, the game automatically inspects the script, looks for those export variables, and builds this property inspector. Yeah, that's cool. I mean, just watching you develop it, and seeing my name and my chat appear on a bee, it was kind of, it was kind of magical. Not that I ever had a fantasy of being a bee, but for a minute, I was a bee, and it was kind of cool. It was kind of cool. All right, so we've got a name field that we can put in here now, right? And if I save him like that, right? His name is Dr. Watson. And so my level saving code should automatically pick up that property. And I go into the editor and reload the level and click on him, and it should have remembered it, right? It did. So my saving and loading logic already works. All I have to do is put the variables in. I spent a lot of time working on that, and I'm glad I did, because now it makes adding things pretty simple. So now I've got names in the game. You can name your guy, right? You can name these astronauts, but where does it show up? So I've got a dialog. Where is it? I named these things terribly. What gives chat participants a sense of ownership over their experience of watching? Yeah. And what gives chat participants the feeling that they're affecting the player's experience? Yep. Both are powerful. I agree. They're both powerful in different ways. It's the difference between being just a passive observer and a participant, right? It's the difference between just watching television and being almost like an actor or a co-equal partner in what's happening on the screen, right? It brings you much closer. The engagement is much higher. I mean, seriously, that's the great thing about Twitch is it's so much different than watching a pre-recorded YouTube video because you can talk to the guy. You know, you can talk to the gentleman or lady that's streaming and ask them questions, and it's very, very cool. Yeah, so putting chat right into the game. I mean, Twitch it's kind of a genius move that they did this with IRC, and they have the API so open, and they're encouraging all this gamification of streaming video. Yeah, really smart. So this one is the Dialog Editor, and that's what you use in the editor to actually create your dialogue. The dialog node and the root are things that you drag around in the editor. The dialog event is the thing you put in your level that triggers the dialogue. But it's not what actually shows the dialogue. That's the dialog box. The dialog box, right? So this is a dialog event. And when I click it and do edit, this is the dialog editor. This is the dialog root, and this is a dialog node. So you create a dialog in a dialog editor, you add a node, attach it to the root, which is all attached to this event, which can be triggered by an area or by a signal. And when in game you're playing, that event gets triggered, it creates a dialog box, one of these babies. It's dialogue all the way down, turtles all the way to the bottom. So we've got portraits, right? And there should be a bunch of them. This is just showing the default. But every dialog node has who's speaking, bunch of code for styling the text, little macros for certain commands. Portrait. So the portrait texture is just p.portrait, which is the okay, where is that being called? As usual, as per usual, when I get in here and start doing some coding on something I haven't touched in a long time, I need to figure out how it works again. So in my dialog node, is that where I'm setting the portrait value? Yeah. Okay. And dialog box, does it reference this variable? It does. So I can actually add some metadata here. Let's do this. This will make my job a little easier because I'm trying to think, how am I going to know who's speaking? And all I've got in here is this name, which could be anything. This is a descriptive thing. And it's got an icon, which could also be anything. And it's got an ID number, which could change if I rearrange these things. So what I want is something more meta, like actor, cat, right? And these will all be actor LT, right? And this one's going to be astronaut. Because this matching, what I'm doing when I save the data is I'm just saving the ID number into the node. And then it's getting right? If that ID matches, then it gets the portrait from this, right? Which is this here, right? It gets this data. But I also want it to get this data so I can see who the actor is. Here, let me delete some stuff for you. Watch this. Hilarious. Yeah, so where was I? Oh my lord, my computer is just lagging right now. What is happening? Oh. Oh? Let me close some stuff. I don't know why my machine is just bombing right now. Do I still have the profiler running? That might be it. No. Let me turn these off. It's a little better. All right, so now I've got this actor name, right? Or the actor string, right? So these are all the lieutenants, so they're going to have the LT actor. This is the captain. This is the astronaut. And if I have multiple astronauts, they're all still going to be actor astronaut. So now in here I can tell who the actor is. In dialog box, I can tell who the actor is. And I'm thinking I'll do something like put their name right here. Right? This is where the dialogue goes. This is where the portrait goes. There's a panel here with this background graphic. Let me put in another label right here. This is me designing on the fly. And we'll call this label actor. Buy followers. Ooh. Sign me up. Look at this. Report a message. I'm concerned for their well-being. I mean, that's serious. Ugh. Actually, now that I think of it, it worries me that this is here. They had to add this for a reason. Oh, that's a bummer to think about. It's spam, man. Block. All right. I don't want to be famous either. I know it's kind of an oxymoron. Here I am streaming myself on internet TV. But I'd much rather be happy and wealthy and anonymous than to be famous. But if I have to be famous to be wealthy, I guess I'll put up with it. All right, so we've got an actor label. And what we can do then is in here, in the dialog box, when we set the portrait, right, we could say match p dot Oh, that's not going to work. Oh, no, 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 that works. So we could say match P, right? P.id, and say captain lieutenant and astronaut, right? So if it's the astronaut, then I can check the name of the astronaut. But do I have a reference to the astronaut, the actual? Yeah, I do. Because this, no, do I? I don't think I do, actually. I don't think I do. Because the dialog event when it's triggered, creates a dialog box, and it passes into the dialog box the dialog tree. But that doesn't have the name on the actual. That doesn't have anything about the actor. How am I going to do this? Because the actor and the dialog event are disconnected. Pass. So if I've got a person and I've got a dialog event, and the person might trigger the event when you pick him up, when you beam him up, or he might trigger a dialog event when he's killed. And in those cases, that triggering of this guy needs to send it to this. It's almost like this dialog event needs a reference back to who triggered me. That's exactly what it needs. It needs a reference back to who triggered me. Hey, Javi. Hey, man, I was doing research on your company today. Mind. We got to talk about that later. I saw the article that you mentioned in the Discord. It's cool stuff. So let's see. So I think what happens is this guy, when he's triggered by these things, he's gonna trigger the dialog event, and he needs to send some information about who triggered it, right? So let's look up the person and see how it does that. The person has an embark, right? He emits a signal. He has a die, destroyed, right? Man, this is actually getting kind of hairy, because I think so in the editor, it connects a bunch of signals. This guy, right? As the entities are loaded into the game, it connects all these signals that you connect in the editor. And it connects the signal name. It connects the signal name to the code. Yeah. So the entity, this signal on the entity is connected to this other entity and their trigger method, and it passes the code. And I think I probably also want it to pass in a weak ref child. Something like that. But this is going to break. This is going to break all the trigger code I have in the game. How many of those do I have? Probably not too many. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That's not so bad. I can refactor those. But I wonder if there's a way from the entity receiving the signal. Is there some way to know who triggered that signal? I don't think get nodes and group will help, because the problem is that this guy is receiving a signal. That's it. And the signal has information about the dialogue, but not about who triggered the dialogue. So this node has dialogue to be said, right? And I know it's a astronaut who says it, but I don't know which astronaut, right? This astronaut is who triggered it, and he has a name. El Profesor. But he triggers this dialogue, and this dialogue doesn't have access to this name. I could somehow inject this name into the data for this, but that seems very messy. And so what I think I'd like to do is just have this receiver know who triggered its signal, know where did the signal come from. And then if it came from a person, then go back and figure out the name of that guy. But to do that, I think I need to pass a reference to the caller in the signal. Yeah, you can pass. I can pass it through the signal, but then I have to rewrite those my receiving methods, my signal receiving methods, to include that extra variable, which is not a problem. There's only 10 of them, and I think that's what I'm going to have to do. But I was wondering, I'm kind of curious if there's a way for the entity receiving the signal to know where the signal came from. And I don't think there is a way. Yeah, I changed some things. I changed the little chat UI right there. I changed my my Gravity Ace logo a little bit. I changed my I did a little background here, a little border. I'm getting all high tech on this thing. And I'm going to do a transition animation to replace this fade. Because that fade's boring, right? It's boring. I want to put something cool. Explosions and spaceships. Gravity Ace. Because there's nothing that makes you feel more productive than to do stuff you don't need to do. Yeah, I don't think there's a way to know. Godot, where did the signal come from? Get the node that triggered a signal. Q&A. Hi, I'm trying to trigger a node. Blah, blah, blah. You can pass an additional parameter. Yeah. Yep. All right, let's do that. Let's just quit messing around and just do it. So if I pass a weak reference to the calling object, right? so this, in this case, this would be the person and this would be the dialog event. So I'll pass a weak reference and it'll do this on every one. And so I need to change all my trigger nodes, all my trigger methods to accept a, oh God, what do I call this? That, right? Let's do that. And let's underscore it because I think in most cases I'm not going to use it. But because that code is sort of global and it's called for every signal, I need to put it on every receiver. Otherwise I'll get signal didn't work because you passed 2 parameters and the function was only expecting 1. What just happened? That was crazy. I think this keyboard is bugging out on me. Can you guys read that? Is that big enough? Do that one. Do that one. Do that one. Do that one. All right, so now they all have the same API. And it's underscore. The underscore basically tells Godot, look, I know I'm not using this variable in here, but don't tell me about it. I know what I'm doing. If you left it out, then it would give you a warning. Say, caller is never used. If it's intended, do this. Which is nice. I like the warning. It's like saying, are you sure you know what you're doing? All right. So let's just test that change and make sure nothing changed. Everything should still continue to work. Let's turn on my dialog. And play. And we'll start here because I know there's some dialogue here, some juicy dialogue. And it should not crash. Look at that. And there should be some dialogue down here. There we go. And there should be some dialogue right here. Yep. All right, so the existing dialogue continues to work. Now, there's one in dialog box that I need to deal with. Dialog event even is where I need to deal with it. Yeah. So this trigger method is the one that's going to get the caller. So I can break right here. And let's just see what happens. Let's create a level, or let's hook up these signals. So let's go into the editor, look at my sample test level here. Got my guy, got my thingy. Let's edit some dialogue and make it look cool. We'll say it's an astronaut. Oh, hey guys. How's it going? How's it? Save. And then we'll connect his beam up to that. And then when I play it, we should get a break when I beam him up. All right, there's that break point. And caller should have a value. It does. It's a weak reference to the dude, the person. And I use a weak reference because there's no guarantee that by the time I've triggered this, that the guy is still alive, that he's still in the world. He might have been blown up. Who knows what happened? You know, maybe I'll write some code later in the game that just disappears astronauts at random times. And this code would need to know that, right? So in here I can say I can get back. Oh, actually, let's just pass it through. So we'll say dialog box dot actor name equals. Actually, let's do this. Let's do this. So what I want to do here is say if caller and caller dot getref, right? Then actor equals caller dot getref. Do I need that? Underscore. Let's say actor name equals blank. Actor name equals caller getref get name. If caller dot getref is person, can I do that? I'm not sure, but I can do this. I can do that. I've talked about this whole entity type ID thing I've done in the past, and yeah, it's just the peculiar way I did it because I didn't know about these. And if I was to do it again today, I would use groups instead. But in the meantime, every entity in the game has an entity type ID, and that's how this game's doing it. So if there's a caller, and the caller has a reference, which means it resolves into a real thing that's still in the game, and its entity ID is a person, then I know it has a name, and I can just get that name. And then I can pass it into my dialog box. Set actor, like that. Let's do set actor name. Let's be more explicit. Yeah, in my game, they're all strings. So this is excuse me, this is effectively group, right? And so every person in my game, they all have the same entity type ID. They're of type person. My launcher, missile launcher guy, right? He's type launcher. And I could have done it this way instead, right? And just checked is in group. That would have probably been better. That would have been better because the API is better. This one causes me some bugs. It did cause me some issues in the beginning, and it is kind of a pain because you have to define this for every new entity that I create. Whereas if the group is missing, the API still works. Is in group blank or is in group whatever, it still works. But if you try to get an entity type ID and it's not defined, it crashes the game. So just for that reason alone, this is better than this. But like I said, that ship has sailed. I'm not rewriting this code. So, dialog box, set actor name, right? Normally the actor name is blank, but here I'll just set actor name like this. Let's be even more explicit and call it astronaut name. because that's the only character that has a name that would be passed in. Everybody else, there's no other person in the game, right? It's just astronauts. Let's just do that. So then in my dialog box, I need a method, set astronaut name, and then I want to set that locally, right? So I'm going to say astronaut name, right? Simple. And I don't need this code. I can just say dialog box. I can say actor equals astronaut name, right? And there's an error here because astronaut name hasn't been defined yet. I'm kind of writing this code backwards, right? It's kind of my MO. I write code from the perspective of the caller first, how I would like to use the code. This is the API I would like. And then I write the API. All right, so now I think people should, because of the code in the editor, it's going to pass in the reference. So the trigger event here, trigger method here, what the heck is it? Trigger. Am I losing my mind? Oh, no, I am losing my mind. It's not in here. The event has the trigger. So trigger gets the reference to the caller, which is the person. And if that caller exists, and if it's real, and if it's a person, then get the name. And pass that into the dialog box that gets created. The dialog box saves the name into a local variable, and then later when you set the portrait, it just updates the label. Why would I do it there? Why not do it here? Yeah, that should work. Well, maybe not. It might not work because this dialog box gets added to the scene tree right here, but it takes a frame for it to actually be in the scene tree. So this, if I call this code here, it'll fail to update the label because it needs to wait a frame before the dialog box is actually in the scene tree. So that's what this does. It just waits and then eventually calls this based on the data and builds everything. So I'll just save it and set it there. That's fine. It's clear. They're close to each other. You can see what's happening. It's fine. All right, let's see if that works. Load up our test level. This guy, oh gosh, let me delete him. This guy is Dr. Watson. Play it. Let's see what the dialog box says. Oh, I'm still breaking there. Let's continue. Dr. Watson. Hey guys, how's it? Right? It worked. All right. It worked. Guys, I did a programming and it worked on the first try. For those of you following along at home who aren't programmers, that never happens. right, so we've got the dialogue text, and you see where this left edge is right here? And we've got our actor label, and I want to line those up. And I don't think there's a good way to line them up. You just got to kind of do that. There we go. So now it's lined up horizontally. Now I can move it vertically where I want it. And then I want to do some... I want to do this, I think. And maybe this. And let's put some text in there just to test it out. Oops, that's the wrong one. Dang it. I was editing the wrong one. Bop. Bop. This guy. Bop, bop. Oh, wait. No, I wasn't doing the wrong one. I wanted on both of them. Maybe? This one, I definitely want it. Right, it's hard to see, but you can see the black outline. And maybe we'll do something with the color too, but for right now, that's fine. Let's just stretch that all the way across. So now we can have really long names. And we'll add a colon. Here. Right? Because colon means this is who's talking. And I just saved all those scenes. Let me look at my source control here, see what changed so I can make sure I didn't screw up that, that outline thing. So all of these changes are that changing the API for the trigger event, right? Adding the caller. And this one, that's, yeah, I want to revert this. Yeah, this is the panel text. I want to revert this. So I'm going to take this, put it back here. Save that. Let me close this scene. Save that. It's fine. Okay. So now when I reopen that scene, it should go back to the way it was. Yeah. See? All right. Source control for the win. Let's restart and try that again. Did I screw that up too? Oh, do I? Plus. Thank you. There he is. The font and everything is still wrong. Let me reload it and see if that fixes it. Sometimes you just have to reload stuff. Yeah, here we go. Let me also, let's change the color. So that dialog box, actor, color. Let's pick a good color from our palette. Hey, you.
Hey. I just finished the finale of Startup.
Oh. Irene's sad because she just finished the finale of Startup, the Korean
A K-drama on Netflix.
K-drama on Netflix about a Silicon Valley-ish startup.
Chelsea Torbs, highly recommend it.
2 thumbs up. Oh. This is what they do. It's a tiny heart. I'm not mocking you.
You're mocking me.
All right, FEAE34. Let's do this orange. FEAE34. Oh, we watched that too. Silicon Valley was great. There we go. Nice. And if the astronaut has no name, say, like this, should still work. Okay. Let's fix that. Oops. Let's do this. The reason I did this, instead of just saying if not, blah, 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 there's 2 reasons. One, I like my if conditions to always be affirmative, not negative. Going through a bunch of if conditions like this is just harder to read for me. And then 2, this is sort of defensive because it handles both cases instead of just assuming it's going to go one way or another. So it's probably more lines than I need, but who's counting? So yeah, that's what I'm going to do, right? So astronaut name is empty, then do this. But that's not going to be the way it is for forever, because I think now we've gotten to the meat of it here, right? If people are going to vote on names, if you're going to use your hard-earned channel points to buy a name that's going to go into the game, and you can do that down at the bottom of the chat, then obviously these guys need names, right? So what I'll do is, what I think I want to do is let the user type in a name, right? So the person making the level can add a name, right? If they want to. Maybe they want to make a level with all their family members in it that you can go around and rescue. And that'll save. But if you leave the name blank, okay, if you leave the name blank, then at runtime, I think I want the game to just generate a name at random. So each time you play it, you're going to get different names. It'll be different astronauts. And yeah, each time you play it, you'll get different astronauts. And that'll be cool. So this, I don't want to just get name. I want to do get name like this. Or actually I could leave that. And then here in the person, I can use a setter getter. Set astronaut name get astronaut name. And then set astronaut name. Very straightforward. But get astronaut name. Right, that's the naive one, right? But what I want to do is, if name is empty, then do something magical. Let's just test it. Holy moly. Whew. 5K. I think the longest line count I have in one of my files is for the level editor, and it's somewhere around 2,000. So if we leave this blank, oh, it was blank. Oh, that's an interesting issue. Just keeps refilling it. Yeah, I don't want to, I guess I don't want to use these. Let's do this. Because the editor is accessing name, which is calling the setter, and each time it gets it, it's checking if it's empty. But I want to leave the name empty if the person left it empty. I want to let people have it be intentionally empty, which means generate a name. Yeah, which means I do need to change this just a skosh to say get. That. Okay. So now this should be empty, right? And if you type one in, you're going to get a name, but I'm going to say it's blank. I'm going to play it, and it's not going to be blank anymore. I mean, it's still blank, but it's because it's blank, it's going to say holy moly, right? Perfect. So now you can type in a name, and it'll use it, or you can leave it blank, and the game will generate one for you at runtime. But now I'm just all curious. Let's see what we got here. Line count? Let's see, how would I do this? Find no? Oh, word count. There we go. 22,000 lines total. Look at all the scripts. Oh, but I didn't write these. These are add-ons that I got for free. I didn't write any of those. There's my editor file, 2,200 lines. This is the main game loop while you're playing the game. The game over screen is actually really large. This is a singleton with all my helper functions for running the game. Configuration file. This is my leaderboard server client. Client code. I should rename that to client instead of server, but my thinking was this is what's connecting to the server, so I called it server. I'm bad at naming things. This is the code for the cave walls. Obviously, cave walls are very important, but I'm kind of surprised that it's that many lines. 25K. Wow. Well, I got to write 3,000 more lines of code then, obviously, if I'm going to win. All right, so now we can make a list of names, right? And the way I did it here in the walls, the cave walls, is I just created a big array of names, right? And it just returns one at random. So that's what I'm going to do here too, because that's easy and it's fine, and I don't have to load anything from disk. So I'll do var names like that. And I'll do that. So if the name is empty, if the user supplied name is empty, then it's going to return one of these random names. Otherwise, it's just going to return the name that they typed in. So now on to the fun part. I don't know either. And comments, right? I mean, counting lines of code, it's kind of silly. It's kind of a gross measure of how much effort you've put into something, right? So it's kind of useful. It's also kind of a gross measure of like which things are big and which things are small. Kind of good. Oh, I know why my wall class is so big. It's because I got 500 lines of names of places on Mars in it. That's why. So if I took that out, that's going to take 500 lines out of this file. That's why I was surprised that this is so big. So proving my point that line count is meaningless. All right. Person. Names. What would be good names? Famous dead people, right? Famous dead people. Oh my God. Nope. Let's do it. Who's in chat with me right now? Let's put all you guys in. You want to be a doctor? I like Dr. Judakis. What else we got? We got Valiant Cheese. Do you mind if I put you in, Cheese? How about you, Sco? Oh, Scooter. I like it. Oh my God. I can't believe I've been calling you Sco this whole time. I get it now. I get your name. I'm bad at reading license plates too, vanity plates. I gotta put myself in. Let's put in Javi. For Javi, let's put in El Profesor. For me, I'm gonna put Dr. Watson. My name is literally John Watson. I get tagged. I used to get when I had a Facebook account. I used to get tagged on Facebook, and I would go and look at who tagged me, and it was people tagging John Watson, the Sherlock Holmes sidekick. All right. Oh, Peter bread. Pita bread. Oh, we gotta have Droopy as well. Lord Droopicus. And Mr. Pita bread. All right. Anybody else wants a name, they're going to have to spend some channel points. Famous dead authors, 19th century. Charles Dickens, Walt Whitman, Washington Irving. I like Irving. Let's go Irving. Oh, yeah, I heard about that. Oh, I kind of like that idea. I do like that idea. Thank you, Judd. Let's do that. Mr. Miss, right? Ms. Lord, lady, scientist. Is that a title? Doctor, professor. No title should be a valid title. No, let's not do that. Let's not do no title. Oh yeah, let's do captain, lieutenant, sergeant. Is that spelled right? That doesn't look right. Is there an E there? I don't know how to spell sergeant. Oh. I have a cheat. Sergeant. Lieutenant. Captain. Major. Professor. Doctor. Lord, lady, Mr., Miss. Scientist. All right, okay, that's cool. This is a good start. Hey, Zendra. That would be fun. Yeah, I mean, there would be rabbis in space, right? And, sure, why not? Medic. Actually, let's leave the religion out. Admiral. All right, that's good enough for now. Let's see what we got. Let's work on an algorithm here. And we've got names. And then, so here we want to do return titles. Right? And yeah, let's do first. Oh god, this is getting so complicated. Let's just do this. Yeah, I'm not sure. Are we doing first and last names? No. Let's not do first and last names. Let's do everybody gets a title and just one name. That way we can have cool names. We can have some names with personality instead of just completely made up random names. I like Washington and Irving. Maybe I'll put in all the presidents. No, all of them but one. Oh, you gotta have a Waldo, right? Where's Waldo? You gotta have a Ralph. Darwin's a classic. Horatio. Maybe some Shakespeare names. Shakespearean baby names. Show me the names. Oh my lord. What a terrible website this is. Awful. Now we're talking. You see what I just did? Let's see how this looks. Aaron, boring. Boring, boring, no. Abraham, slender. Interesting. Achilles, okay. Adam, sure. Adriana, I like. Let's get some lady names in here. Amelia. Agamemnon. Ajax. I don't know how these are going to work. The Duke of Albany. Alice. These are all first names. Man, you give yourself a simple sounding task and it turns into more than you bargained for. Yeah, I don't like any of those names. Soldiers from Aliens. That's not a bad idea, but I want to be respectful of copyright issues. And the way copyright works in the United States is the writer retains their copyright for 1,000,000 years. So that's why I searched for 19th century. Ooh, a social security register from the 1880s. Just first names. Oh, maybe that's what I need is a death registry. 1800s. Find a grave. Year died, 1876. That is a badass name. Acre with 2 A's, I like. Sounds science fiction-y. Oh, I don't know. How many names? A couple hundred. I want to have enough that you can play through the whole game, not see the same name twice. So what I need is a list that I can use. Oh, this name's dope. Can't copy and paste. Johanna. So many A's. That's a cool name. Anyway, this is not scalable. Plus, I was looking for names with some personality, right? But I'm basically just pulling out random names here. I don't know if this is the right approach. Let's test it out, see if it works. See, that's an interesting way to do it. So if we load our guy, our level, right? He has no name. They have no name. But when I beam them up, they should have a random name and title. Ms. Irving. Hey guys, how's it? Restart. Lieutenant Irving. We got Irving twice. Ms. Valiant Cheese. Mr. Droopy. Yeah, that's cool. Lady Valiant Cheese. It's weird that I'm getting the same names twice in a row, but that's probably my human bias for not understanding how randomness works. But it also could be partly maybe the random seed wasn't initialized right. I don't know. Dr. Waldo. All right, so that works. It's a good proof of concept. I have the ability to add in names. I'll probably add some more at some point. And yeah. Right, and he's still blank. So if I named him, I wanted to just have him be me. Then he'll always be that. So when you're making your own levels, if you want to name your people after your family or friends or whatever, you can totally do that. Otherwise, just leave it blank, and the game will make one for you. And now we have the ability for people to get their name into the game. All right. So a lot of changes here. These should all just be changes to that trigger to add the caller reference. This has the astronaut name, right? That new API and the label. Here's the new label right there. Added the caller to the signal connector in the editor. This is when the level gets loaded. This is the API thing, and passing the astronaut name to the dialog box. Oh, it turns out I don't need this. Yeah, I don't need this at all. So this is my initial thought of how I was going to implement it, but I ended up not going that way, so I can actually revert that like that. And then API, 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 blah, blah, blah. And then the person, right? Choosing the name. Yeah, so need more names, basically. Add random names for astronauts in the game. All that code for such a silly thing. All right. So the other thing I did, I don't know if you guys noticed this, but well, you probably didn't notice it because I haven't shown it to you. But I merged in the Nakama branch into master, and I started working on master again, even though I'm not done with the Nakama code yet. So what I did was, because it's done enough, I just need to deploy the server, and I've been working on that. I was working on it yesterday and today. But it's kind of, I don't know, there's just a lot of moving parts here. Fortunately, Nakama makes it pretty easy to deploy. Hold on a second. I think something got disappeared. Well, shoot. It's not important. But there's a bunch of config files I need to set up, and it's just kind of a hassle. But Nakama's written in Go. The cockroach DB that it runs off of is also written in Go. Go files, Go programs all compile to a single binary where everything's statically linked. So there's no dependencies. It's nice. It's easy to deploy. I just need to put two binaries out there, configure them to run when the server starts, put some configuration files out there. Should be good to go. Simple in theory, but it's kind of a chore. I started working on it. I know what I need to do. I was reading a lot of documentation. I just need to finish doing it. So what I did in the meantime, because I don't want this to hold up deployment of this new branch, this new code, because there's a lot of other stuff mixed in here, because I wasn't rigorous about the updates I was doing, and I didn't care to cherry pick and whatever. So what I did was I just merged the Nakama branch back into master, and I added a feature flag, basically. So under the Nakama config, I have a enabled variable that I added, and it's off, right? This is on, this is off. So it's off. And then I just added code in the Nakama server script that I wrote, right? It just checks. Is it off? If it's off, don't do anything. So it just skips it if it doesn't do if it's off. And that's how I'm going to ship this for right now until I can get the server online. Yeah, so I was able to, I added the feature flag, merged it, and so now all the code's there, but it's just dormant, right? And then later, once I deploy the server, then I'll check that box, rebuild it, and it'll be active. And meanwhile, I can deploy the random names and the shooting energy gauge that I've got and the random landforms and all this fun stuff that I've done. So that's awesome. Where's my to-do list? Find a grave. Man, they've got a lot of data. That's just 1 year. That's cool. Mamie. Anyway, I'm going to put this in progress. And just to remind myself what I need to do, I write the code and then add the names. And I've done this part. I just need to add the names part. So that's in progress, just about done. I'll find some names offline and add them in. Last thing I want to talk about was, I don't know if you guys know, but there's a new Godot Showcase. Here. News. So they just launched this yesterday. It's a cool showcase, right? It replaced the old showcase. And yeah, there's a bunch of cool games in here. And you can submit your own project to the showcase. So they have what they're calling a higher quality barrier. So before anybody could submit, and now they want to really showcase what the engine can do. And so they're looking for, what they're calling high quality games and projects, right? And so their criteria are, some reviews on Steam. It's got to be published, yada, yada. You can submit non-games. And then they have there's probably some subjective judging that goes on as well when they get these. But if you have a game that you think would show off Godot, even if it doesn't strictly meet some of these criteria, I would say go ahead and submit it anyway. And see if you get in, because I mean, as long as you're doing something that looks really cool and really shows off the engine, I think there's already some new stuff in here since they launched. It'd be cool. I don't like the way this renders. But yeah, so the Gravity Ace is there. Hive Time is there. High five, cheese. This is an app for doing pixel art, I think. I think I've tweeted this guy before. I've heard of this one, Material Maker. It's pretty cool. I don't know, some of these I haven't heard of. This one I've heard of. This is on my Steam wish list, I think. Fun little arcade shooter thing. But it'll be cool to see this get filled out, as more and more projects get published and come to light. And this is the kind of thing that will get, more people excited about using the engine, and the more people that are using it, the more development it'll get, the better the engine will be, the more help there'll be in terms of volunteers working on it. It'll just be better for everybody. The more stuff gets in here, encouraging new people to use it. I mean, really, we need a couple of big hits, I think. And then everybody will be like, oh, wow, that was made with Godot. And like every game that gets published here probably helps the popularity of the engine a little bit. Yeah, I don't know what's wrong here. I think on my phone it looks way better. Oh, there it is. I just need to refresh it properly. So that's better. Yeah, that looks way better. I must have had an old style sheet cached or something. I should know better because I am a web developer in my day job, or I used to be. Yeah, so the new showcase is out. If you haven't heard, you should definitely check out all these games. And if you've got a game that you're working on that you think shows off the engine, definitely consider submitting it here, because I think it'll be better for the whole community the more people have great projects to show. Wow, it's 7 o'clock already. So tonight, like I said before, I've got a YouTube video coming out tomorrow. I'm going to start doing more of these short form 10, 15-minute YouTube video devlogs where I demonstrate some feature or some programming trick or a shader or something slightly educational, not quite tutorial, but maybe tutorial-ish, you know? I mean, tomorrow's definitely will be along the lines of a tutorial. It's going to teach a technique for how I do an animation that I do in the game. And yeah, so check out my YouTube channel. Go ahead and subscribe. You can find links to it on gravityace.com. And follow me on Twitter. I'll announce it there too. And yeah, look for it tomorrow. That'll be fun. So I gotta sign off because I gotta actually record that thing. I wrote it yesterday. I need to record it now, and render the video. You'd be surprised. I mean, making a 10-minute video takes me about 4 hours, which is why I stopped doing them partly, because it's a lot. It's a lot. You gotta spend a couple hours writing it. You gotta spend a couple hours recording it. You gotta edit it together. But it's gonna be great, and I'm looking forward to it, and I'm gonna get to it right now. So, with that, I think let's see if we can. Do you guys have anybody you want to raid? Let me see if there's anybody on that we can go attack. I mean, not attack, but you know what I mean. How about we go get Jitspo? Good night. All right, guys. I'm going to start a raid for Jitspo. And then until next time, I'll see you guys around. If you're sticking around for the raid, then be nice. Jitspo's awesome. And I'll see everybody else around next time.